Talk Radio 630 KHOW, making our way through a Thursday edition of the show. I love talking to people who see a problem and then come up with ways to address it that are creative and innovative. And I'm very happy to have in the studio with me right now a man named Brian Watson. And Brian was introduced to me by another friend of mine. Many of you know him as the Black Conservative. Rocky Mountain Black Conservatives is his group. His name is Derek Wilburn. And Derek said to me, you have got to talk to Brian Watson. You've got to talk to Brian because the stuff he is doing is so amazing and motivated for all the right reasons. And Brian, I appreciate you coming in this morning.
Thank you, Mandy. Appreciate it.
First of all, let's talk a little bit about you, your background, your history, and then we'll kind of move into where you are now and why you decided to go in that direction.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up on the western slope in the town of Olathe, known for its sweet corn. And
delicious sweet corn.
And we like it, especially this time of year, and all the Palisade peaches over there as well. And I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, and my dad was in construction. Went to school up and got a degree at the University of Colorado at Boulder, and then was a broker for a number of years with Cushman & Wakefield. And I founded my first company 15 years ago, and the name of the company is Northstar Commercial Partners. And the focus of Northstar is to go out and to buy vacant buildings and to put them into productivity. You see, a number of years ago, I decided to start connecting my passions with my profession. And I think when you do that, you don't work another day in your life. And my passion is to create jobs and opportunity specifically for the people of Colorado. And so we go out and buy these vacant buildings that a lot of people often overlook, and we improve them, and we have companies locate in them to create that opportunity for Colorado citizens.
Let's talk specifically about Afric Mall.
Yes.
What is it?
Well, a building that I bought in the Denver Tech Center is the Innovation Pavilion, and it was a lender-owned property, and it was in foreclosure. They had foreclosed upon it, and we bought that building, and at the Innovation Pavilion, over 80 companies have been created in the last year and a half. The youngest entrepreneur is in middle school, and the oldest entrepreneur is over 80 years old.
So this is an incubator?
Yes.
Where people can come in and they can get help or get space at a low cost until they can get out on their own, sort of like a little nest in a way.
Well, and it's actually even better than that. If you have an idea and you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, you can go down there and have a cup of coffee for free and just sit there and start to talk to other entrepreneurs. And as you get your idea, then you can go and get an office space. Through that acquisition, I met some gentlemen from the African community. And for 7 years, they've been working to have their own building. You see, there's 150,000 Africans within a few mile radius of the building that we bought on East Colfax. And we bought that building, again, vacant from a lender from out of state who could care less what's happening necessarily. And we bought that building vacant. And now Afric Mall is our tenant. And they're finishing out the build out. And there will be space where you can go in and go to a food court and have food from all throughout Africa, the Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, etc. There is a mall where you can go meet African business owners and buy African products. And they're also going to have a business incubator as well. And, these are people who sacrificed everything to come to our country for the American dream. And I believe the American dream is still alive and well, but sometimes you have to come along people. And I would say oftentimes you have to come alongside people to help make that dream a reality. And that's what we're doing, and it's going to create a lot of jobs and opportunity on East Colfax.
This sounds great, and immediately there are going to be those skeptical people out there who are always looking for the downside. Obviously you're in this to make money. But it sounds to me like you could probably make more money doing it a little bit differently. I mean, how much does profit come into this versus just wanting to help people sort of get things off the ground? I mean, obviously they go hand in hand in this case.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big believer, in the mantra of doing well by doing good. And oftentimes people think that those things are in conflict with each other. And if we can come alongside and invest, and we're taking a lot of risk in that investment, and yes, we need to make a return on our investment, but it's something that they can work in concert with each other to create that opportunity. And, at the end of the day, that's what we're in business to do, and to create that opportunity across the board for people.
When is Afric Mall going to be open?
Within the next 60 days.
Oh, wow. So this is right around the corner. That's very exciting.
It's very exciting.
Do you feel like there are things, because I had no idea there were 150,000 Africans in Denver.
Yeah.
My favorite 7-Eleven clerk is an African guy. Mm-hmm. I was talking to him this morning about his experiences coming here from Kenya, and we were talking about a couple different things, and I'm going to let him know about Afric Mall when it's opening. But do you feel like that there are segments of the population that are overlooked by your more traditional thinking business types?
I think so. And I think that, at the end of the day, people, like to go in the path of least resistance. It's easier to go down the center of the fairway of what's known and tried and true. But I do believe there's different segments of our society that need to be embraced and need, again, to come alongside them and to believe in them. These people, the individuals that founded Afric Mall, the biggest thing that I appreciate about them is their heart and their work ethic. And that alone means the world to me. These people, it's not about necessarily, huge amount of financial capability or anything like that. These people have a dream. And for us to come alongside and to help make that dream a reality, and you think about the ripple effects, not only within their own families, but the people who come to Afric Mall, there's also going to be a cultural center. So
Sure.
as different dignitaries come into Denver, and my hope is that people who might not often engage with the African community, they would go into the Afric Mall and they would try this different food. I mean, Ethiopian food, for instance, is one of my favorite foods. It's not pretty when
You're
I'm
doing
around.
this for the restaurant opportunities, aren't you? It's completely selfish on your part.
You absolutely found my whole
Well,
motive.
when you said that you could get food from all these different places, in all honesty, I'm thinking to myself, I'm totally going.
Yeah.
I love, you can learn a lot about a person's culture from their food.
Absolutely.
And that, to me, sounds incredibly fascinating to be able to go and learn about the different cultures and the different food that is available. So as a white person, I can tell you I'm going to Afric Mall.
Yeah, well, that would be wonderful. Well, and the people who will be making that food, they're going to be making it with passion. And the ability to try what is different between the food from the Ivory Coast or Ethiopia or wherever it might be, I think will be a lot of fun and exciting.
So you obviously have a very service-minded attitude about your business as well. And this has now sort of transferred over to another dedication to education reform. How did that come about?
Absolutely. So to me, education is one of the cornerstones of our society. It is absolutely imperative to help go out and achieve one's dreams. And whatever education means for you. I mean, it may be K through 12 education, it may be vocational training, college, whatever it might be. But to me, literally, that foundation stone is one of our civil rights issues of our day. That's how impassioned I am about it. And so as we've gone out to buy vacant buildings and put them into productivity, I've run into a lot of charter schools and different schools looking for a location. And the facilities part is a much needed part in that equation. It's wonderful for us to have choice in society. We have choice in all other aspects, and so we should have it, and you should be empowered with choice as a parent in education of where you can send your child. And it shouldn't necessarily have to be relegated to the zip code that you live in. You should be able to select which school is the best environment for my child to thrive in. And so we have gone out and we are putting buildings under contract and acquiring them for schools. As an example, we have a building under contract right now in Montbello. A lot of the public schools in Montbello have an F rating. And I'm a public school kid, and I believe in our public school system. And we have a building under contract that's going to be for a charter school there called Academy 360. And Academy 360 is already there, and they're making a positive impact. And so we're about to launch a new fund to go out and specifically buy vacant office, industrial, and retail buildings in Colorado, and schools where we can find them, but they're hard to find, and to provide space, much needed space for charter schools to be able to thrive in.
So is this going to be, because I actually have worked with a group of people who are trying to find, and you're right, that the capital part of creating a charter school is the most difficult, is just finding space for what you want to do. So is this going to be an ongoing fund, and are these facilities going to be provided, at no cost, low cost? What are we looking at here to the charter school people?
It will be an ongoing fund, and so again, connecting my passions with my profession. And so what I can bring to the table is real estate expertise. Most assets we acquire on a vacant basis, we're buying them for sub 40% of the replacement cost value. So if we can buy these buildings at a lower cost, that means less cost to the school and more money in the classroom to where it should be impacting children. And so the schools, we will go out and use our resources to underwrite the buildings, to find the buildings, underwrite them, to acquire the buildings, to build out the buildings. And each charter school would then have a lease with us. And that lease will allow them to be a tenant for as long as they'd like to, or they can buy the building whenever they're ready. And what we're talking about are schools who started maybe in a basement of an office building or reduced cost space, and they need to go to that next level, but they aren't in a position yet to go get their bond financing. And so we want to help fill that gap between those two stages to create choice in education throughout all of Colorado. Again, I come from a small community, and a lot of people just focus on Metro Denver. Well, there's a larger state out there in Colorado, and there's a lot of need out there, and we want to look in areas and help out wherever we can.
I want to talk about that for a second, because the first thing you mentioned was in Montbello, and the fact that the schools around it are F-rated schools. But I want to talk about how to expand that statewide and what that looks like. And also, I'm sure that you have some success stories, and I'd love to hear some of those of people that have benefited from the stuff that you and your company are doing. This is the kind of stuff that I like to talk about because so many people think someone should do something about that. Someone should do something. And there are people, every single wonderful, huge organization starts with one person saying, someone should do something about that, and I'm going to be the person. And that's why I wanted to have Brian Watson, and we'll talk with him again right after a quick timeout on Talk Radio 630K. Talk Radio 630 KHOW. We are talking with Brian Watson. He is a busy man, the founder and CEO of Northstar Commercial Partners, and someone who believes very strongly in investing into communities that I guess, Brian, would be the best way to say was maybe underserved by your traditional commercial real estate places. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's not a priority. And now you've moved into supporting education reform. And I want to get into that a little bit because I agree with you that education is the best opportunity for people to really get out of poverty. And you are focusing on areas where maybe the traditional public school system is not getting it done. And you're helping create opportunities for charters to either create or grow by giving them the capital space that they need, the buildings that they need. But when you're working on these projects, you have to be meeting people. It must be gratifying, I guess is the way I want to ask this question. It must be gratifying to know that what you're doing is going to make a difference in someone's life.
Yeah, I would think, the most gratifying thing is when you invest and you see somebody blossom and achieve their dreams. Again, what that dream looks like for them, not placing my dream upon them, but what is their dream? And absolutely, that is one of the most gratifying and things that we're blessed for in being able to invest in the community. No question. So
you are individually working on this program to help bring some more charter schools to areas that really need them. But what else? What are the other bigger issues? You've really narrowed in on some big problems and are tackling them. But, what else is on your radar? I hate to say it but I know guys like you, and you're always looking at the next thing that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been fortunate in traveling a good part of the world. And what I try to tell people, and especially when you come back to America, there's nothing like our country out there. And to me, we have won the historical lottery of all time to live where and when and how we do in the United States of America. And there's an issue that I think in society that people are taking that for granted. It's this entitlement syndrome that you're entitled to X or Y because you're an American or because you were born. Because you were born. And I'm a big believer that you're entitled to get up in the morning and go make something of your life and help serve somebody else in love. And for me, our issues all come down to liberty, freedom, and opportunity for people. And I think if you continue to plow the way for that, great things happen. I mean, you think about the impact of America on the world scene. It's very exciting and humbling, and it'll be interesting to see how that develops over time. There's
a perception among many people who never deal who never go to a bad neighborhood, who never deal with people who are at the lower socioeconomic rung of the ladder right now. The perception is that they are there because they don't care, because they are just enmeshed in an entitlement mentality. They don't care about education. They don't care about the kind of things that you just mentioned. What has been your experience? Because you're dealing in these communities where that perception exists.
Absolutely. And I think, whatever segment of society, I think people like to label and make easy, quick judgments about other people. And so for us, we want to go in and roll up our shirt sleeves as we have done and continue to serve different neighborhoods and economic, backgrounds. But there's a lot of great things happening in those communities where people are going in and serving, and I think there's a lot of bridge building, but there's a whole lot more that needs to be done. At the end of the day, no matter what neighborhood you come from, you're still a person. And you still care about things like your family, and you care about opportunity, and you care about your dreams. Every single person has dreams. And if we can come alongside and help cultivate those and make those a reality, then we feel that we're very fortunate to be able to do so.
I find your choice of words, coming alongside. You've used that very purposely throughout this conversation. Why that particular choice of words?
Well, my personal way of leadership is one of empowerment. I love to surround myself with good people and a diverse group of people.
Well, you said to me off the air that you do your best to hire people that are a lot smarter than you are.
Which I told you doesn't take much at all. But I believe in that. And again, a key part of that is the diversity. Oftentimes, if you surround yourself with people who think like you do or come from your background, that creativity, the sparks will be diminished. And so we surround ourselves with a broad group of people, and then we go, and I love to empower them and to help come alongside and to see them blossom. It is one of the most gratifying things as a leader of an organization and as somebody who's involved in society.
Is this something that people in the community can get involved in? Obviously, your company is very invested in this, literally and figuratively. But are there opportunities? Because I know that there are people listening right now who are hearing you talk and saying and nodding along and saying, yes, that's awesome. I think that's fantastic. Are there opportunities for people to get involved in some of these projects? Obviously, you're dealing with, like the Afric Mall, you're dealing with the vendors and the people there. But what opportunities would exist for someone who said they want to support what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, everybody has their different sphere of influence and background and things that they can bring to the table. And so there's absolutely. So in terms of, first with Northstar, we go by vacant buildings, environmentally impacted assets that people often overlook. So if anyone ever knows of a vacant building in their community that's dilapidated or that needs to be reinvested in, love to have a conversation about that from the Northstar's perspective. In terms of education, there are different charters out there who are trying to get off the ground and have a great vision, but that facility need is getting in the way. One of the things that we want to do with our fund is when we go out to buy a building is buy a little bit larger building and incubate that next charter school in that extra space so that people then can grow and spawn out from there. Some of the other things that we're involved with, some community service projects. Through my foundation, we're trying to invest and trying to find different areas to make a positive impact in people's lives. And also through the Opportunity Coalition, which I know you want to talk about as well.
That's what I was going to ask you about next. What is the Opportunity Coalition? Because that seems like a great opportunity right there for people to get involved.
So as I said, I originally come from the western slope of Colorado. And if you think about in your own life where your contacts are, where your friends are, where your relationships are, and they're usually within your own community. And what I saw in Colorado is that we're a little bit disconnected. There are the people on the western slope. There are the people in the mountain region, and then there's the people on the Front Range. And so I founded the Opportunity Coalition, which is a nonprofit organization, and we're bringing in individuals on the third Thursday of every month, all from around the state. And these are people who have had success, whether in academia, whether business, entrepreneurial activities, politics, etc. And they come in and share their personal story. And my hope and what has been happening already is that people come and they attend the event and they learn these golden nuggets of wisdom from these individuals and say, okay, how does this apply to my own personal life? And new jobs are being created, new employees are being found, and new companies and positive initiatives are being put forth. And we hosted at the Innovation Pavilion, where I told you that the 80 companies have been found, and it's just been absolutely exciting to see the growth of the organization.
Now, can anybody come to these events? Is it membership only? How do you become a member? I mean, how does that work?
Well, if you live and breathe, you can come to the event. And so we have anyone from Colorado can come to the event, and we have a time for networking where we're really intentional about connecting people together, and then the speaker will share their stories, and then there's a Q&A session, and it's been just absolutely exciting, and so absolutely you can learn more at www.opportunitycoalition.com, and anybody can come, and we encourage anybody to come.
Well, I am going to put a link to this on my blog, because this is the kind of thing that obviously, especially people, would this be a good opportunity? One of my frustrations, and it's not even that big of a frustration because I've moved so much that this is kind of a common thing. It's difficult to be a new person in Colorado. It's difficult to sort of, I don't want to say break into the circles, but there are so many people who are from here. And there's so many new people moving in. Would this be an opportunity for those new people coming in to find new ways to get involved in the areas and meet new people and network?
Absolutely. And I think it's hard, in any environment, oftentimes you go into a room and you gravitate to the people you know. And we're very intentional about connecting people in a positive way. And I think a lot of people want to be in relationship with others. It's just hard to find those relationships. And great things happen when you put good people together. And that's what the Opportunity Coalition is about.
Before we wrap up our conversation, I want to ask you, what has been the most surprising thing about these endeavors? What is there anything that you look at and say, wow, I did not see that coming, but wow?
Well, I think oftentimes whenever you're trying to make a positive impact, they're the people that will go against you. And, one of my favorite quotes is the Teddy Roosevelt quote about the person being in the arena and on the arena floor. And that person, they're mired in blood and sweat and tears. And oftentimes people in the stands can often, be hecklers and to accuse them of certain things. And so, what we're about is just going out and being positive and coming alongside and be authentic and real. And I think that our actions and the positive things we're trying to create will speak for themselves.
I think what you just said is hate is going to hate. That's what you just said. And it's sad but true. For everything you're trying to do to build someone else up, there's someone that's going to try and tear you down. Because obviously, if you build someone else up, they're going to feel bad about themselves because that's sort of the warped view of the world.
Well, and I would sadly say that, hating and doing things like that, they're easier. They're easy to do. And trying to go out and be positive and creative and coming alongside people, it takes a lot more effort. And we'd rather be on that side and be known for our service and love to our community than in someone who's just trying to block everything at every corner.
Now, here's why I had you on right here in this email. Mandy, I was listening to your segment with Brian on my way into work, and I think I can help him. We're a nonprofit that takes corporate donated computer equipment and refurbishes it for charter schools, religious organizations, and other nonprofits. We charge a small fee to recoup our costs, but we have everything from server switches, infrastructure. So he is going to, he said, let him know if we can help you. So,
well, that's the exact reason we do what we do. It's letting people know about a positive thing to come alongside and how we can all work together. Each of us has either our time, our talent, or our treasure to contribute. Speaking of nonprofits, one of the things that we try to do in our office buildings is to donate a certain amount of space to nonprofit organizations and new entrepreneurs who are trying to get started. And we give that space to them for free and for a certain amount of time so they can get their legs underneath them and then grow. And so, again, whatever you can do to do your part, it's, again, doing well by doing good.
How can people get in touch with you? Can they go to the Opportunity Coalition website? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, the best way to get in touch with me is by email, and it's Brian, Brian, at NorthstarCP.com, as in NorthstarCommercialPartners.com, but just put NorthstarCP.com. You can learn more on the Opportunity Coalition website or on the Northstar website at www.northstarcp.com.
Brian, I really appreciate you coming in today. We will put your email address also on my blog as well. So if someone's driving, they can just go to KHOW.com, which is way easier to remember, and check out my blog. I hope you inspired someone to A, get involved, and B, take action on a project that maybe has been working their way in their heart today.
Well, thank you. And I want to acknowledge all of your great efforts. Without you being on the radio to tell people about some of the good things that are happening in our community, it just wouldn't be heard. So really appreciate your efforts.
No problem. Brian Watson, we will visit with you again maybe after the Afric Mall gets, maybe we'll have lunch at that Ivory Coast restaurant and go from there.
My treat whenever you're ready.
Absolutely. We'll be back right after this on Talk Radio 630 KHOW.